This video is dedicated to Neil Smothers. A big thank you, Neil. Akroma Vision of Ixidor, Kamahl Heart of Krosa, Neheb the Eternal, Tolsimir Friend to Wolves, and then some more partners: Toggo, Goblin Weaponsmith, and Keskir the Flesh Sculptor. I think we will keep that. We've got a flat curve in this deck and don't have too much ramp, so I'm just happy to have some lands in the opening hand here. And this deck is being brought to us by Neil Smothers, who has supported the channel on Patreon at $15 a month, so he gets to submit his own deck. So a big thank you to Neil for that. Really fast start over here from Neheb, getting into some fast mana in Worn Power Stone, Mana Crypt, and a Mountain. I think we're just going Krosa and Verge. More ramp from the red player, a Thought Vessel now. And then in for a turn 2, Neheb the Eternal. 4 cards left in hand. If we can get ourselves up to Heliod's Intervention, hopefully that will hurt the Neheb player. But we're just getting into some of our heavy stuff. Like I said, there's a lot of 5 drops in here. The curve's very flat, so that's something that we can have a look at after the game. Celestia Signet coming down for Harley Zane. Harley Zane is a friend of the channel, by the way. Played with us from the Discord. Link to that is in the description below as well. And Tolsimir, Friend to Wolves, being played there. Toggo and Keskir being played by Billy Kills, long-time patron of the channel. Big thank you to him as well for supporting the channel. Wow, and it's a god hand over here. Lightning Greaves onto their commander now. And swinging in at the Celestia player, which takes him into 4 mana and more ramp in Wayfarer's Bauble. Cracking that straight away. Then Expedition Map. So really just focusing on keeping his commander in play by the looks of it. We'll go Command Tower, and we will ramp with the Krosa and Verge, and then try and set up Heliod's Intervention and try and mess up the Neheb player a little bit. Dockside Extortionist from the Rakdos player. Going to take advantage of all the artifacts that have come down, getting 6 into play. So we're getting into quite the start. It's only turn 3. Expedition Map being cracked at the end of Tolsimir's turn. Tolsimir just holding up 4 mana and passing. Hopefully that's some artifact removal. They went for Inventor's Fair, by the way, which hopefully they won't be able to make use of, thanks to our Heliod's Intervention. And now going in towards the Rakdos player. I'm purposely holding up white mana here because I want to make them worried about what we might be able to do to them. And that might be what Harley's strategy is as well. Okay, Bedevil, so that is 1 artifact dealt with. Takes it out of Kills' hand as well. This is the problem with getting off to a fast start. Yep, you get all the hate pointed at you, now a Terminate. So if we go Heliod's Intervention, we can get rid of their rocks, and then they're a couple of mana away from getting down the Neheb again, and it won't have haste. And they're empty-handed, so yeah, it's not looking too good for the Neheb player here. But they've got a Grim Monolith, yeah, just a bunch of ramp from this player. So they're probably going to be able to get down their commander again. And that is what they go for. At the end of their turn, we'll crack the Krosa and Verge and we'll get some tap lands into play. I think with the speed of this game, drawing into tap lands is going to be relevant, so we'll get down the Cycle land. Canopy Vista will come in on tap thanks to that Plains in our hand. So we'll go Temple Garden as well. Actually, I just spotted Mistveil Plains, should have put that down instead. Alright, in Martial Coup as well. Let's drop a Plains, and I think it's 3 into X on Heliod's Intervention. So maybe we just get rid of Monolith, the Worn Power Stone and Mana Crypt. Then it'll be 9 mana to cast the Neheb after it goes down again. Yeah, so we're in it for the long haul here. More fast mana from Billy Kills this time, going for a Soul Ring. And then Toggo, Goblin Weaponsmith coming into play. And at the end of the turn, Harley's going for something here. That is Eladamri's Call. They get to tutor for a creature, put it straight into hand. And what did they go for with that? That is Master of the Wild Hunt, so their aim might be to make a few wolf tokens and fight this thing. It's going to take a long time to get that through though. But instead of going for that, going for Tolsimir, so getting themselves into a wolf there. So they might play another wolf, maybe get down another wolf token before going for Master of the Wild Hunt, Whoops, an IF6 through the Celestia player's turn, so let's go for this during the upkeep instead. Inventor's Fairy is going to trigger for them. We'll go after their fast mana. At least doing it this way, they have a chance of being bolted by Mana Crypt. So they're just floating a bunch of mana. And going for the Inventor's Fair in response, they have gone for Sandstone Oracle. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 mana. And they're going to get some more with Neheb, so they should be able to refill their hand here. Throwing out a Smuggler's Copter, as well as a War Room. Then coming in at us, and we are on 8 points of commander damage. I must have missed it the first time that they swung in at us. Don't recall them swinging in at us, and I don't think I commentated on it anyway. Getting hit for 4 by the Neheb, and they get into the Sandstone Oracle with 0 cards in hand, and that takes them up to 6 in hand. And of course they get into more fast mana because that's what this game is apparently, which takes them into Swiftfoot Boots. No mana to equip that, thankfully. So let's see here, can we put 5 into X on Martial Coup? No, we're 1 off of that, unfortunately. So let's just try and do a bit of setting up with Divine Visitation. That'll probably make the Neheb player swing in at us, but maybe if we hold up 1 white mana, that will dissuade them. It's a huge telegraph of what we're doing with the Divine Visitation. But if we get into a land next turn, we can go Avenger and get a bunch of Angels into play. The smart thing to do is probably Martial Coup, though. Still no black mana from Billy Kills, although he'll have some with the Fabled Passage now. Toggo coming down again, and that gives him another rock token. And there's another Wolf with Soulbound, Wolfir Silverheart. +4/+4 to each of the creatures, so giving +4/+4 to the commander. And this thing fights the Neheb, so doing a nice job of dealing with Neheb so far. Be nice to keep their hand empty though. Then the 3/3 goes in at us, and the 7/7 in towards Billy Kills, and kills blocks with Dockside. But we can't keep Neheb down, once again coming out. Don't know if they've made a land so far. Hopefully they can't make a land into the Swiftfoot Boots. Just deciding to animate the Smuggler's Copter by tapping down their commander. So I think they're going for a land, although they just discarded one there, so maybe they had to play a land into Neheb. Anyway, we're getting both of these in at us, which is 7 life. And that's the problem when you play Divine Visitation without any backup. Everyone will start swinging in at you, and rightly so. So they get the mana that way instead of the land, which gets them into Torbran. Fingers crossed for a land next turn so that we can wipe this board. That is Hexproof and Haste onto their commander. And there we go, there's some mana, so we'll go Mana Crypt. And we'll dump a bunch of mana into this Martial Coup. And that gets us into what would have been a bunch of soldier tokens. Instead, they are angels. So there's a new threat at the table, apparently. Kills managing to drop another land and getting into Tamio's Journal this time. Harley getting into the commander again, Tolsimir. And now it's a Wheel of Fortune. That's not the best. We've got a decent hand. But I suppose after Shamanic Revelation, we've only got 3 cards to play anyway. If we were going to use Revelation to draw, then it might as well have been someone else's Wheel of Fortune. Alright, so Elspeth is really good with Divine Visitation. Put stop on the upkeep for that Enlightened Tutor. And then they get themselves a Prismatic Lens. What have we got here? 6 times 4 is 24, so we can't quite get them, I don't think. I think we'll go for a mana doubler here. It'll buff our angels as well, so that will be 30 damage, and we should be able to get the red player then, because Neheb seems to be a very resilient deck. Grab Mirari's Wake. Go for the Sol Ring because the Mirari's Wake only doubles on lands. Play Mirari's Wake. And then we'll attempt to swing in here. And there we go, that takes them down. Pretty good going by Neil Smothers. This is his deck, don't forget. Now we'll go in for the Elspeth, I think. And plus on the Elspeth, which will get us into 3 more angels. It's a gamble now from Kills. And he discards Inspiring Statuary. He's discarded Hangabat Walker to the wheel. Brass's Bounty is in the bin, that's good. Piers Revolution. And then what have we got over here? A Witch Stalker, Pack Guardian, a land, and obviously that Master of the Wild Hunt, which we already knew about. Now Revel in Riches has been cast from Billy Kills, and it's getting a bunch of tokens off of a Blasphemous Act. So getting rid of a heap of angels there. And the problem we have now is that Billy Kills, thanks to the Blasphemous Act, has 10 treasure tokens along with a Revel in Riches, which is going to be an alternative win condition during his next turn. Reese the Redeemed coming down for the wolf player now. There is Arlin. -2 creates a wolf token, and it enters the battlefield with a plus counter on it, so that is a 3/3. But we still get to keep our Elspeth and Divine Visitation, thankfully. Okay, it's a Wingmate Rock for us, so it looks as though Billy Kills has it. Let's just play it out anyway to show off Neil's deck. And play a land for the turn from the Cultivate. Then I think we're okay to go for Emeria's Call as well. So that gets us into a couple more Angels. And would they have Vigilance anyway? 2 4/4 Angel Warriors with Flying. No. So they're just replaced by the Angels from the Divine Visitation, so they gain Vigilance there. We've already got Flying in play for the Akroma, so yeah, let's just concentrate on ramping here. Go for the Farseek. And now we'll grab the Mistveil Plains, which I probably should have done already. But we'll use that opportunity to get a tap land into play, the last one I think. And then our commanders are too expensive here, so we might as well go Rampant Growth. And that can be us done. Missing haste here, this is the problem, like I said before. If you're getting into the red zone to win, and you're a token strategy, you really want some form of haste, because the Rakdos player has time to respond to us now. Yeah, but Kills just gets the win on us there. There's nothing that we could have done about that. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. I mean, he just dumped that on us the turn after we got rid of the Neheb player. So us playing a bunch of Angels worked to his advantage there, really, because he got to wipe out a bunch of creatures and get 10 treasure tokens. So Revel in Riches getting the win off for Kills here. I think it was still a decent showing from this deck from Neil Smothers. It's just that we lost out to a combo in there that we couldn't have done anything about. I think we'll go and have a look at the deck list, and we'll see if there's anything that we would make any changes with. Alright, so over to the deck list. I mean, we did well on mana there. There's 37 lands. That does include Bala Ged Recovery and the Bolt land. Where is that? Oh, right there. Emeria's Call and Emeria Shattered Skyclave. I wouldn't necessarily count these as lands. I'd put them in the deck for their effect, and if you need to use them as a land, then so be it. But you can keep trying it with the 35 lands and these double-sided lands if you want to, and see how it turns out. I noticed that Field of the Dead is in here. The thing that I always forget as well with Field of the Dead is mixing up your basics. So putting normal basics in the deck and then snow basics as well is something that you could go for. So I'll just make a new version of this deck, and that can be the edited version. Yeah, so we would take out 3 or 4 forests here and replace them with snow forests. And then there's already snow forests in here, so we'll take out 4 of those and replace them with normal plains. So there we are. That might make a difference when you're going for Field of the Dead. That's one thing that I always forget to do with Field. Then as for token production, it's obviously a token deck, like I said a few times there. The curve's very flat here. I think there is just about the right amount for 4 drops, but I would probably take us to around the 4 or 5 drops. And then, yeah, there's quite a few here as well, especially considering the expense of our commander, so let's just go through this. I think I would take out Legion's Landing and probably replace that with Crossroads. That gives all your creatures haste, so if you go off in a turn with something like Divine Visitation, Parallel Lives and Elspeth, then you can probably one-shot someone. I think Crossroads is quite expensive, so a budget option for that would be Crashing Drawbridge. I'd probably try to get Greaves in here as well, if for nothing else than to protect our Akroma and or Kamahl. So we'll shove a Greaves in here. Culling Deus, I like the idea of, but I think it's going to be too slow. I don't think it's in here as part of a combo or anything, so you're just kind of sacrificing creatures just for the sake of putting a counter on this when you don't necessarily want to do that. Especially if you're going wide on your opponents, you want as many tokens in play as possible. If this was just sack a bunch of creatures, put charge counters on that, and then tap, sack, and draw equal to the charge counters, it'd be much better, but I think this is way too slow as a card draw spell, to be honest, so I'll take that out. And then from the 2 mana ramp, we've got Farseek and Rampant Growth. I think 3 visits would be good in here. 3 visits and Nature's Law are near enough the same card, but they're really good if you have shock lands or the cheap dual lands, stuff like that, which all 4 of the dual lands are in here. And 3 Visits has just been reprinted, so pick up your copies now. We'll throw in 3 Visits, and then do we take out Rampant Growth or Farseek? Farseek can get the dual lands, but Rampant Growth, if we've got 4 different types of basics, then it might help to trigger the Field of the Dead. Yeah, it's a tricky one, that. You don't have the fetches, so you're not going to get into your duels as quickly as I would in one of my decks. So that's a toss-up between Farseek and Rampant Growth. Whichever one you want to include, I'll just take out the Farseek here. Because we've already got 2 ramp spells, 3 Visits, and Nature's Law that can get the dual lands, so Rampant Growth can get one of the 4 basics. So then that is 37 lands. If you keep these and include them as lands, I would include 37 lands and then put these in as well as those 37 lands, as opposed to including these as lands, but that's as maybe. You can hold those as 37 lands, and then we've got... And yeah, with mana doublers and ramp and stuff like that, I count 48 pieces of mana. That obviously includes the lands and rocks and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, that's probably okay. I just worry about the curve more than anything, to be honest. I tend to go a bit heavy on 2-drops. You've got a lot of ramp in the 2-drop slot, so I'll try and leave that alone. I think we should go through this list of 5. Angel of Invention is really good with the Divine Visitation and mana doublers or token doublers and stuff like that, so that'll probably stay in. Yeah, Cleansing Nova, I mean, they're all good cards. God Eternal Oketra's absolutely staying. Wingmate Rock, I find, is very slow because it's conditional whether or not you get the token. So I would probably take that out. Return of the Wild Speaker is a very, very good card. It's a buff spell and card draw. Or Frostfang is good if you can go wide as well. Shamanic Revelation, also good. Mirari's Wake we used to great effect in the last game, and Tristani Discordant, yeah, so there's some tough cuts to make here. As good as Auron Frostfang is in a deck like this, I'm going to cut it here just because you've got so many 5-drops and it's somewhat more conditional of a card draw effect than something like Return of the Wild Speaker or Revelation. They're obviously situational card draw spells as well, but Auron Frostfang needs you to have an army of creatures and to be able to swing in with them. I think you need to be able to hit as well. Yeah, it needs to deal combat damage to a player, so that's even more situational that you couldn't hit Planeswalkers and draw a card. So this is a really good spell. It's underrated and not played very often actually, but just because you've got so many 5-drops, I'm going to cut it here. Another situational one that you might not get a lot of tokens off of is Arasta. I don't mind cutting that because you do have a lot of token producing spells. Tristani might be a bit slow as well. I'm thinking this just wants to be an aggro deck. You just want to drop tokens into play and swing in with them immediately. And that helps us get into something like Krosa Grip for the deck. Krosa Grip is another underrated one that people don't seem to play as much as they should. The split second is relevant, means that you can counter something, or destroy something without it being countered, I mean. People can't respond with Heroic Intervention or anything like that off of Krosa Grip, so it's well worth having. Saved me in many matches. And then if we're getting rid of Tristani, then it's just one less piece of life gain that we can get. So Resplendent Angel, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just too situational. Like, you need to be able to gain life to get the token. It's the same with, where is it? Speaker of the Heavens here. If we're not going to be gaining a bunch of life, then we can just cut these things. I think Wormcoil Engine is well worth keeping because it's just easy to get tokens with. It's easy to gain life with, especially when we've got haste in the deck. And then we'll go over some more removal in a minute. Akroma absolutely has to have Odric in the deck. That's an auto-include if you're running Akroma. So let's go for Odric, Lunarch Marshal. What you'll do is Odric will go on the stack at the beginning of combat. You'll put Akroma on the stack first, and then Odric will give all of your stuff all the different keywords that you've got. And then Akroma will buff all your stuff depending on the keywords that they get. I'm just thinking of stuff on the fly here. We need to get another piece or two of removal in here, but I've just thought of Grand Abolisher is really good. If you're up against counter spells and stuff like that, then Grand Abolisher means that you can do anything you like during your turn, which might be relevant with something like Concordant Crossroads. Might be worth putting a tutor like Eladamri's Call or Worldly Tutor in here, depending on how many creatures you've got that you really want to get yourself into. Then for protecting your board, you're going to get people casting board wipes into your deck if you don't manage to get the haste going. So something like Teferi's Protection would be good. You've got Flawless Maneuver. I don't know if you're necessarily going to be able to get your commanders out that quickly. So Teferi's Protection should maybe buy you a bit of time. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have both in the deck, to be honest. And just looking here, there was something else that I didn't necessarily like the look of. Springbloom Druid. I think I would replace that with Harrow, because Harrow brings the lands in untapped, and it can be relevant that it's an instant speed card as well. So if someone is going to counter it, they have to counter it on their turn at least, which can make a difference and free up your turn. And then how about some more keywords for the Akroma? There's a good one called Aerial Responder from one of the more recent sets that I don't have apparently. Yeah, that's the one. It's a white Vampire Nighthawk. So it's not an incredible card or anything, but it is really good with the Akroma. So all of your creatures are going to get Flying, Vigilance and Lifelink if you manage to get your Odric Lunarch Marshal into play. So this is where you want to try and get Odric down as part of an alpha swing. So it might be really worth going for some kind of creature tutor. That's up to you. If you're not going to go for that, it might not be worth running the Aerial Responder, but it is good with the Akroma. I know you've gone for more of a token build here, so not going to lean too heavily into the keywords. You've obviously got some keywords in stuff like Wormcoil Engine and Hornet Queen. There's stuff with Trample on it in Rampaging Baloths. So just imagine having one or two of these cards out alongside Odric, and you'll get a bunch of keywords on all of your stuff. Another one that might be good, actually, speaking of the Grand Abolisher, I always like to put Grand Abolisher and Dragonlord Dramoka in my Selesnya decks. Again, I know it's not leaning into the token theme, but it is leaning into the Akroma and Odric theme, and all your creatures in that case will get Flying and Lifelink. It also stops your stuff being countered, so I think Dragonlord Dramoka is well worth an include. And then, yeah, and I keep looking at this Aerial Responder. I mean, I just wanted to mention it more than anything, but I'm looking around the deck here, and you do have a lot of stuff that has keywords on it already, so yeah, maybe Aerial Responder wasn't the best suggestion. Maybe replace that with Generous Gift. Like I said, I'm just spitballing here and throwing suggestions out, so Generous Gift for a little bit more removal. We'll go through and count the removal here. Yeah, including board wipes, I count 14 pieces of removal. That includes Elesh Norn. Sometimes she'll be removal, sometimes she won't be. I've included Elspeth as well. I think you've got a decent amount of spot removal there now. Yeah, so the curve's a little bit better here. I think I would still try to cut a couple of 5-drops here and maybe place another 3-drop, maybe the Selesnya Signet in here. Something like Wood Elves could go in the deck. I really want to ramp in this deck so that we can actually get up to the big stuff. I know it worked out well for us in that game. I'd have to play it a lot more in order to see how consistent it is, and obviously Neil Smothers is going to know how consistent it is more than I am. Bit heavy on the X spells because oftentimes you want to put a lot of mana into the X spells, so I would probably only run 3 of these. The Martial Coup is obviously really good for us. Heliod's Intervention is good. I would probably get rid of Finale of Glory myself. Secure the Waste is instant speed, as is March of the Multitudes. And these have lifelink, but it's 3 mana to cast, but it has Convoke, so is it a little bit win more if you're using Convoke to make up for the CMC? I don't know, I mean, that's a real judgment call there. Secure the Waste will dig you out of a hole faster than March of the Multitudes will, like you'll recover from a board wipe much better with Secure the Wastes. And if we're not going for the lifelink plan anymore, that was just a tiny little sub-theme in this deck, then maybe get rid of that. Again, I'm just cutting cards willy-nilly here. It's not to say that they're bad includes or anything, and obviously you can put whatever you want into the deck. And yeah, just take what I say with a grain of salt. So I like to go for Wood Elves because it can get the dual lands out, put a space in between there, and it's also a good target for the Skull Clamp as well. Same reason as going for Reclamation Sage. So maybe Rex Sage is worth going for. Maybe a good one might be Chord of Calling, actually. That's another X spell, though. Yeah, Chord of Calling into something like Avenger or Hornet Queen. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. Anyway, let's just concentrate on Eladamri's Call, I think will be good. Oh, and I've just typed Call in. That's another good one for you in a token deck. Call of the Coppercoats. Don't often see people playing that one, but that will often get you a lot of tokens. So there's yet another one to have a look at. See how often, as much as I love this card, see how often Arachnogenesis is good for you. If you often get a decent number of tokens off of it and it saves you taking a chunk of damage, then keep that in. Otherwise, maybe consider Call of the Coppercoats in its place. We'll put Eladamri's Call in there because it can get us into Odric mainly, but it can get us into things like Elesh Norn as well, which can help deal with a board state quite nicely, or just send us in for an alpha swing. There was another one I thought of. Lastly, let's go for the White Castle. Yeah, Castle Ardenvale. If you're in a real pinch, or you just have surplus mana from your mana doubler, then Castle Ardenvale can be really good. And what land do we take out for that? I think I'm not a fan of tap lands, so I think I'll take out the Thriving Heath. And I think that'll be us done. Just making a few small edits there, but the curve is a tiny bit better there for the millionth time. I would probably try and take out a couple of 5 mana spells there, but I think that's looking pretty solid, and it was a solid deck anyway, as we saw in that gameplay. So a massive thank you to Neil Smothers for submitting the deck and supporting the channel on Patreon. You can do that as well with the link in the description below if you like. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.